I remember the slow clank of the loading platform as I stepped into the submersible. They told me I was going to investigate a communications blackout at an underwater research facility miles below the surface. The assignment felt wrong from the start. Too many gaps in the briefing and no clear explanation of what caused the blackout. Still, I was lured by the hefty payment, so I climbed aboard and descended into the dark. The pilot barely spoke during our journey. Now and then, I caught him stealing anxious glances at the sonar. The faint glow of our spotlights revealed little except endless blue fading into black. After what felt like hours, the silhouette of the lab's docking bay emerged from the gloom. We docked, and I stepped onto the station's metal flooring. The pilot gave me a stiff nod and eased the sub away, vanishing into the murk. I was on my own. Inside, the air was stale, and condensation dripped from overhead pipes. Lights flickered, revealing a corridor that branched in two directions. Near the entrance was a wall panel displaying a layout of the station. It showed multiple modules: the main lab, crew quarters, environmental controls, and something labeled Restricted Wing. My radio crackled with static when I tried to call for any survivors. No one answered. As I ventured deeper, my boots clanked on metal plating. Odd footprints stained the floor, wet outlines leading toward a locked door. I tried the handle, but it was jammed. An adjacent path took me through a cramped side room filled with toppled crates and scattered lab equipment. Amid the debris lay a digital recorder. Its screen was shattered, yet it had stored audio logs. A calm voice on the first track introduced himself as Dr. Everett Hale, the lead scientist. He spoke of new life forms, showing unexpected intelligence. The second log was nervous, describing water samples that moved in response to unknown stimuli. The final track cut off abruptly with a metallic clang and muffled shouts. Then silence. Unease churned in my gut. I clipped the recorder to my belt and moved on, suspecting these logs wouldn't be my last hint of trouble. Past a half-flooded hallway, I arrived in the main lab. Glass tanks lined the walls, most shattered or drained. One unbroken tank held murky water swirling with debris. The label was partly scratched off, reading Bio, with the rest too smeared to read. Upturned tables, scattered notes, and flickering overhead lights created an atmosphere of abandoned chaos. I saw sketches pinned to a board, fish-like silhouettes with strangely humanoid features. Notes referenced genetic markers and neurological links, hinting at experiments well beyond standard research. A faint scraping sound made me whirl around. Something moved behind an overturned metal shelf, but when I aimed my flashlight, it was gone. Heart pounding, I pressed on. I found a short corridor leading to a sealed hatch labeled Control Room. It hissed open to reveal rows of flickering monitors. A large console in the center displayed a red warning: multiple system failures. I spotted a locked power switch behind a glass cover requiring a keycard, presumably Dr. Hale's. Determined to restore power, I headed to the crew quarters, where staff lockers were kept. These corridors were even darker, forcing me to rely solely on my flashlight. Water gushed through tiny cracks in the hull, echoing ominously. When I finally reached the crew quarters, I found them partially flooded, beds overturned, and personal items floating by. One locker bore the name E. Hale. My heart leaped. Inside, soaked papers stuck to a battered notebook, but tucked away behind them was a plastic pass stamped with Dr. Hale's ID. Suddenly, a faint ripple disturbed the water behind me. I spun, only to see a hint of motion slip out of sight. Gripping the keycard, I hurried back toward the control room, ignoring every instinct that told me something was following. Keycard in hand, I swiped it at the console. The locks disengaged with a click. A wave of relief washed over me as I threw the power switch. Lights around the station blazed to life, revealing the facility's spidery corridors on multiple surveillance screens. Most showed empty halls or flooded compartments, but one feed caught my eye. A figure drifting near the main lab, large pale eyes reflecting the camera's glare. The figure drew closer and then reached out. The screen went dark, Alarms started blaring. A crackling voice on the intercom played a recorded emergency message. Hull breaches detected. Evacuation recommended. Yet one last status alert mentioned a sub-level chamber. It used more power than any other section, suggesting someone, or something, might still be there. Ignoring every instinct to flee, I made my way back to the main lab, following a stairwell hidden behind an unmarked door. The air was colder, and water sloshed around my ankles. The corridor led to a reinforced door requiring Dr. Hale's pass once more. When it slid open, I entered a wide circular chamber dominated by a large central tank. Control panels ringed the room, displaying data streams I couldn't decipher. The tank's contents were murky, disturbed by slow ripples that hinted at movement. I took a few cautious steps forward. That's when I noticed a person, or what was left of one, looming behind a console. Their eyes were too large, their skin ghostly. They wore a torn lab coat that bore Hale's name tag. A chill stabbed at my stomach. He was still alive, in a way, but clearly changed. Subtle gill slits fluttered on his neck, and his expression was a blend of curiosity and recognition. His gaze locked on me. Slowly, he lifted a pale hand and beckoned me closer, almost gently. My legs shook as I backed away. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw more shapes emerging from the darkness, each displaying the same unsettling features. They moved with synchronized grace, water dripping from their limbs onto the metal floor. The central tank began swirling. Clouds of debris parted to reveal more glimmering eyes behind the glass. I realized the staff experiments had gone too far, transforming them into something amphibious and eerily intelligent. My heart thundered. I scrambled for the exit as one figure lurched forward, blocking my path. Its face hovered inches from mine, eyes reflecting the bright beam of my flashlight. Terrified, I lunged to the side, slipped past, and sprinted into the corridor. Behind me, I heard soft splashes and the metallic clang of footsteps in shallow water. They could move quickly, but it seemed they were herding me instead of outright attacking. The station's alarm rang incessantly, echoing off the steel walls. By the time I reached the docking bay, my lungs burned from exertion and fear. To my shock, the sub was still there. I half expected it to have vanished. My pilot waved from inside, face pale. I raced across the bay, yanked open the hatch and dove in. Moments later, we sealed the sub and initiated our ascent. Through the porthole, I glimpsed a final fleeting image. The station's lights flickering red and slender shapes drifting in the distant water, watching us depart. We surfaced at dawn. As I stepped onto the deck, a mix of relief and dread weighed on me. I'd escaped, but something about that facility kept gnawing at my mind. The ocean, so vast and uncharted, held more than mere fish and coral. It held secrets, secrets that could twist flesh and mind alike. Even now, I still dream about that flicker of movement behind the lab shelves and the pale face in the corridor. I sometimes hear soft splashes in quiet rooms, like a phantom echo. People ask why I refuse any new deep-sea assignments. I simply say I've seen enough, but the truth is I'm haunted by what might be lurking down there in those metal corridors where bright eyes watch from behind dark glass, waiting for the next visitor to descend. Thanks for watching. If this story gave you chills, please hit that like button and subscribe for more eerie creepypastas. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.